This lineup, as we said, joining commentary again by Mark Pedersen. Mark, one Kiwi, one Aussie off each side of the grid. Based on qualifying, this is all on. The gloves are off. Kiwis versus Aussies. Let's go Ute racing here at the ITM 400 at Hamilton.
Right, there is no better scenario when an Aussie takes on a Kiwi on Kiwi home soil, is there? Now, these Utes provide dramatic racing no matter what happens. You throw this Tasman rivalry in, who knows what's going to unfold. But one thing we know, speaking from these guys earlier, is that the V8 Commodores get a better start, or because of the suspension, they get a better drag. So don't be surprised if that car on the right-hand side of the screen gets off the line better.
And that's Kim Jane and the Bob Jane Team Mart's V8 Commodore. It was a pretty even start from the front row. That looked like Huggy Urquhart just to the back of the grid in the black. Big Ben Pye's wildcard. VE just getting a little bit of a slow start. Brake lockups already, and it's on between the Kiwis and the Aussies. That was Senior Burner getting down the inside of one of the Australian cars. On board here with Charlie Kovacs, handlebars.
Right, at the moment, Chris Pithy's kind of the meat and the sandwich in the Aussie sandwich, isn't he? So he's got to make his way through there. But look at this battle coming into turn 2 behind.
So it's Test Series race number 1, and Mark, you got to say, I think a few people were expecting carnage from the V8 Utes here at Hamilton this weekend, but we've got through the first couple of corners relatively unscathed as Kim Jane continues to lead out of Samsung.
Now, how many times have we said that before? And then you come into the chicane in turn 4 with that concertina effect. You're right, 1, 2 and 3 has been executed fine. Still got a long way to go, though.
So it's a good old-fashioned Test Series, and it only happens down this part of the world, whether it be Speedway or V8 Utes. The last time that the V8 Utes raced on both sides of the Tasman was 2006 back at Manfield, and it was Charlie Kovacs winning the overall honours that day. So he is the reigning international Ute champ.
But to be honest, that was 3 years ago, and it's kind of too long to remember who won that.
Exactly, an Aussie who won, sorry?
Yeah, Aussie who?
Exactly right. There's George Elliott going through in the Victoria Coffee, number 55. Simon Byrne back this weekend, hasn't contested the New Zealand V8 Ute Championship this season in the McDonald's number 2.
But the breakaway hasn't hurt him, has he? Because he's straight on the pace right there. You know, and that's just the confidence these guys carry. They can take a year off, jump straight back in their equipment, bang, quick again.
There's Rob Jarvis going through in the number 17 racing for the Australians. Now, if you're struggling to identify who is who, the Australian cars, as we're back on board with Jarvis, have the Armour All banner across the top of the windscreen. The Kiwi cars have NZ, but the Aussies have got the Australian flag and the kangaroo on top of their car in green, and some of the Kiwi guys, I think, have got the traditional black representing New Zealand on the tops of their roofs of their various Utes.
There's a couple of Kiwi boys here battling with each other. Not the smartest thing to do when we've got to try to, beat them Aussies, but good clean race. That's Colin Corkery coming into the championship, but of course he's raced these vehicles in Australia.
Yeah, has raced in the Australian Championship for a couple of seasons, so he will have some street racing experience. Not too many of the Kiwis, if none at all, will have any experience, other than Pither, of course, in the NZ Ute, and he is the new New Zealand V8 Ute champion in the NZ Ford.
Also, Matty Lockwood, of course, he's contested a couple of rounds in these Utes, so he'll know what the equipment is under him.
Yeah, Lockwood recently contested the Legends Ute meeting as part of the Clipsal Festival over there in Australia in support of the V8 supercars. There's George Elliott going through. Hollywood, chased by the number 16 of Alan Letcher. His nickname's Rollover. I wonder why.
These guys got such unique nicknames as such, Kovacs got the moustache, and we had the luxury of speaking to him during the weekend, and he's a lovely character, isn't he? And he was saying a few things, but you've only got to look at his moustache and understand why he's got that nickname.
There's George Elliott. He's formerly raced in Australia in the NASCARs like Kim Jane and Charlie Kovacs. He's done a lot of racing. He's written novels, and I think he's got a bit of a film background as well, with his nickname Hollywood behind him. So that's Alan Letcher. Elliott locks a break up into ITM. That's Graham Senior Burner just in behind. And that'll be the 22 of Jeff Spence, and that silver and red vehicle. On board now with Charlie Kovacs.
But looking in front there, interesting, the battle for the leaders closed right up, and that's Chris Pither in second, so he's got the run on here. But that V8 Commodore, it's a magnificent machine, so is the Falcon, but the Commodore is a slightly newer car, slightly more technology, and it's all that happens to do with the rear end suspension. I'm not going to bore you with the differences, but it just works better in the Commodore's favour. Now we saw the McDonald's Ute just going on.
Running a little bit deep. Simon Byrne, Junior Burner, just got passed there by Colin Corkery in the supercharged batteries Ford. Used to seeing Colin more used in a Holden Commodore, the Holden variety. He's in a Ford this weekend here at the ITM 400. So the Aussies are leading. Kim Jane, Kiwi second with Chris Pither. The Aussie third, Charlie Kovacs. Remarkably drama-free at this stage in the early laps for race number 1 of the weekend. These guys maybe just being a little bit conservative with mindful of the fact they've got 2 more races left to go here over the weekend?
The word conservative Utes actually don't go in the same sentence terribly well, but you know the race has established itself. But here we are, Aussie, Kiwi, Holden, Ford. It cannot get any better than this, can it?
We started the weekend with 8 of the Aussies, 11 Kiwis. One of the Aussies out before it even started, with a big off in the first practice session here on Friday. Warren Millett, one of the VE Holdens, comprehensively damaged the front of that car. As Pither's gone down the inside.
Now look for the crossover here. Oh, sideways, good drift in there now. Who's got the inside running here?
Jane trying to come back at him, but the Kiwis now through to the lead. Chris Pither.
Kiwis 1, Aussies 0 at the moment.
We're not going to worry about who's second and third. A Kiwi is leading here at the moment. The Parker NZ Ford of Chris Pither. Kim Jane into second. Jane has finished in second and third in the Ute Championship, the 10th season of the Australian V8 Utes this year. Pither's flashing his lights on the start-finish line. I think he's pretty happy to be leading at this stage.
I think he's got a good job, you know. Still got a fair bit of the race to go. But
boys, bring out the checkered flag now.
Yeah. Well, Kiwis, of course, we can do anything, can't
exactly.
we? I remember this
Don't mention the underarm.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
Kim Jane in the second spot. Charlie Kovacs just closing up behind the menacing green headlights with the Wilson Security #1.
You can see the moustache actually just in between the headlights, but these two guys batting in the lead, the Aussie, the Kiwi battling, they're taking speed out of each other, and that's just going to allow Kovac to get on the back. But you can't help but quite think that now Pither's in front, that he'll drive those natural lines and he'll actually start pulling away with a bit of luck.
Rob Jarvis back there in about the 6th position. Matt Lockwood a little bit quiet back there in 7th. He's recently tied up his second Mazda Pro 7 championship here in New Zealand. He's been racing with the BNT V8s and a former New Zealand V8 Ute champion as well. Attacking that chicane. These cars are spectacular to watch through this part of the course.
Yeah, they can do it because of the nature of the car, and they're big and heavy, and they've got the suspension to support it, and we see the wheel lock up on the inside. That's just because these cars are so stiff that when they roll, that wheel gets a little bit light and locks it. That there's nothing wrong with the car at all. But it's interesting. Turns 1, 2 and 3, Pip is slightly quicker than the Jane, and the roles are reversed through this part, so it's making a good battle. But you can't help but think if these two guys just have a slight integration, that Kovac is just going to pounce.
Oh, Pither just up ahead off the onboard from the Wilson Security #1. Had a big lock-up. That would have been through ITM turn #6. So making run out of turn #8 onto the main straight. It is Pither leading Jane and Kovacs. Kiwi leading Aussie second and third, and a pair of Kiwis in 4th and 5th with Colin Popper-Corkery and Simon Junior Burner. Popper-Corkery, I asked where did that come from, because the kid's like 21 or 22. Popper Cork, they reckon they gave him that name in Australia.
Goodness gracious me, where they get him from, I know, but here we go, replay through the chicane.
Pither got sideways now towards the concrete, living dangerously out in front.
Well, we know what happens, we've seen from some of the other races, what happens when they get wrong, but the brakes now become the big issue. And the VE Commodore has a slightly different rounded front, probably has a better induction system into the brakes, so that will probably start paying favour to the VE Commodores or the second and third place cars as this race gets further in.
All of these Utes running the Yokohama AO48 tyre. They run a controlled braking system from AP Racing. But there are some differences between the Ford and the Holden brand. The new VE Holdens are running the 6-litre with 307 kilowatt motors, and the Fords are running the 5.4, which are probably standard at 260 plus, but with modifications they're up over that 300 kilowatt range as well.
Yeah, look at these guys. They're trying so hard that once one car locks the brake, the other car just does it in sympathy. But you're right, they have the parity so controlled in these cars that although one's got a bigger engine capacity, all they do is they take a bit of speed out or a little bit of spark out of it, or engine revs or whatever it happens to be, and the overall lap time is what they go for parity. So although there's different specs, it's lap time that they base it on.